If you have an old pair of jeans or pants that you don't wear anymore, then here's an easy and quick upcycling idea. I had these black skinny jeans that were kind of wasting away in my closet. I wasn't using them anymore, so I turned them into capri pants and basically gave them a second life. I've been wearing them a lot now. So if you want to know how to do this yourself, then keep watching. First, put on the pants that you're going to use and decide how long you want them to be. There are different options and types of capris. You can do some research online to see which style you like the most. There are short ones that end on the knee or just below the knee, or longer ones that go until the middle of the calf. For mine, I decided to go for a length just below the knees. You can mark the length you want by placing a pin. You can also use a measuring tape and measure starting from the waistband. If you have someone around who can help you with placing the pin, then that might make it a little easier. Also, make sure to check your chosen length with your legs bent and not just while standing straight, because when you walk and sit down, pants always go up a little and become shorter. So just bend the knees to see what it will look like while sitting down. Marking one side is enough. You don't really have to do it for both legs. You can if it helps you to visualize the length, but otherwise you don't really have to because we're going to cut both legs at once later. When you've decided on the length, you can take them off, turn them inside out, and pin the legs together. Like I said, we're going to cut both legs at the same time, so it's symmetrical. Before we can start cutting, we need to add more fabric for the hem. Usually when I adjust the length of something, I just recreate the original hem that's already there. So in this case, it's a double folded hem of 1.5 centimeter, and I'm going to guess that the other fold on the inside is 0.5 centimeter. So I need 2 centimeter hem allowance, and now I'm going to draw this cutting line. If you're unsure of the length or you're scared to cut off too much, you can also make it a little longer first, and then after cutting you can try them on again and see if you want to cut off more. In my case, I ended up adding 1 centimeter extra just in case, because I suddenly got a little scared, and in the end I'm glad I did that because I'm happy with my length now. So really take your time here, and if you need to, start by cutting less first. Although I wouldn't suggest doing this too often because then you'll end up with a lot of thin slices of fabric that you cut off and they are too small to reuse for other things, and we don't like waste around here, so I wouldn't recommend. The big piece you cut off might still be useful to make something else. For example, I'm going back to school soon, so I'm thinking about using this leftover fabric to make a little pencil case. The next step is to add a slit on the side. This is not always necessary. If you have wide leg pants like this, you don't need to do this. But if you have skinny or straight leg pants, adding slits on the sides will give more freedom for movement and make it a lot more comfortable. I decided to make the slit 4 centimeters long. I think this length probably works for all types of capris, but it also depends on how tight the pants are and how stretchy the fabric is. If yours are skin tight and the fabric doesn't stretch much, you might have to make the slit a little longer, and if they have more of a loose fit, you might be able to make the slit smaller or don't add one at all. So my slit will be 4 centimeters and I need 2 centimeters for the hem. So I'm going to take a seam ripper and open 6 centimeters on the side seams. Make sure you're doing this on the outer leg seam and not the inner leg, so on the side where the pockets are and not the crotch seam. To make the slit, I need to separate these two since they're now connected with this overlock stitch. I'm going to take a little bit out from this zigzagging thread, just a few millimeters. I did about half a centimeter. And then you can cut one of the sides open. First go up to the waistband to see which way the seam is laid flat. My seam will go to this side, so I'm going to cut the other side up to the stitch line. And then you can lay the seam open like this. It's a bit hard to explain in words, but I hope it makes sense as you're watching. And then obviously do the same for the other leg. To prevent the fabric from fraying, you can add a zigzag stitch on all the edges, including the sides. Lay open the seam from the slit like this, and then you can fold the hem. Start by folding half a centimeter and then in my case 1.5 centimeter. So fold it to your desired width and press it into place using an iron, and you can also place a couple of pins. Now you can take it to your sewing machine and stitch all around, and this is how I sewed the slit. Add a couple of extra back and forth stitches at the top where the slit ends because there will be a lot of pressure and stretching here, so make sure that this part is very strong. And then finally I also added a stitch line to the side of the hem like this. If you don't want any stitching to be visible here, you can also do this little piece by hand with an invisible stitch.